Okay, this week you have an assignment which I hope is pretty self-explanatory that has to do with giving a character of yours a secret diagnosis. And we're running up against a fundamental theme in this course, which is motivation and also secrecy. How it is that characters behave based on their fears and desires. And we're probably in our culture we're super saturated with psychology, and we're probably even as amateurs somewhat conversant with different psychoanalytic diagnoses, neuroses, pathologies. Even if we're not, that doesn't really that doesn't prevent us from having opinions. And if you don't feel that you're particularly psychologically educated and haven't read your Freud or your DSM manual or whatever it is that they teach in psychology classes these days, don't worry. What the idea is to have a kind of overview, a kind of global sense of your character and why your character behaves, but in this exercise at least not to reveal that in an expository way, not to simply tell us that Richard has OCD and so he's very finical about the appearance and of everything in his apartment, and he cleans obsessively, and this neuropathology stems from early childhood when his mother and his father did such and such and such. Not to tell us that, but perhaps to have that in mind and to reveal it in a less schematic way, in a way that in real life we might encounter someone's behavior. Again, this is getting us to think about roundedness of characters and to think about how we deploy information, at which points in a story do we tell something or do we show something. You've probably heard show, don't tell. I actually, as a creative writing instructor, don't like that dictum, show, don't tell, because I think telling is a resource too. Writing as if you were an essayist, writing somewhat abstractly, analytically, can be a wonderful resource for a creative writer. I have to say, though, as a college creative writing instructor, 9 times out of 10, when I'm giving you guys advice about a given passage of your writing, I'm basically saying show, don't tell. I'm basically saying be more specific. Give us a little bit more rounded, a little bit more detailed sense of what's going on. So that doesn't preclude telling, but these exercises in which we're forced not to tell can be very helpful for our prose and for our development of characters. I'm having you, in essence, set up scaffolding that you then take away, and that's a fundamental way to build things. And at the heart of this, of course, is the sympathetic work of a fiction writer. The challenge of thinking, why do people behave the way they do? Particularly people who might not be like you. And of course you, whoever you are in this class, might behave very differently than other people in this class, based on different impetus, a different motivation, a different situation. So one way of doing this is not just to come up with a kind of pseudo-medical diagnosis, but also to answer a series of questions you pose to yourself about your character. What is his or her greatest fear? What is his or her greatest desire? Does he or she know these desires or fears fully, or are they to some extent subconscious? What has caused these in this person's past? When have they acted? When do they act in complete and total fidelity to this desire or fear? And when do they surprise themselves and act differently? How might you act in a given situation Let's say your neighbor is complained about your music. You didn't think it was that loud. How is your character with OCD going to act? How is your character who's chronically shy going to act? Well, he or she might not have been playing music that loud in the first place. How is somebody with a little bit too much of an anger problem going to act? I'm curious to see what you do with this. Of course, again, the challenge is going to be to show that motivation, to advance action, and yet to show roundedness, to have some level of complexity in your character. All right, good luck.